Hello, everybody, and welcome to Back and Forth. I'm your host, Gecko Man. Sitting beside me is our co-host, Rogue Gambit, the man who doesn't like to be handed things.
Yeah, you can just put those right there.
All right, Rogue, what will we be talking about this week?
We will be ranking all 32 MCU movies and TV shows. In part one this week, we will have the worst all the way up to number 11. And then in part two, we will have our top 10.
All right, Rogue, since you're the Marvel guy, and since you seem to talk over me quite a bit, why don't you start us off and get us through all these Marvel rankings, and I'll just be here commenting on all of that.
Sounds good. I'll try to let you get a word in edgewise. All right. At number 32, we have Eternals. Shocked?
Definitely not. Eternals for me was pretty boring.
Yeah, not much to say. It was terrible. No compelling story. Ending was horrible. Moving on.
Well, let's get one thing in real fast for this. For the Eternals, bad guy is
Eternal.
the Eternal, or I guess maybe the Deviants. I guess they're called. Is that what they're called? The Deviants?
Something like that. I don't
I
even.
don't want to say Deviants because
I think that's right.
okay. Well, yeah, he was just wasted. I feel like.
Yeah.
You
The
just
whole
don't want to
movie was
talk about
wasted.
it. You just don't want to talk about it, do you?
No, I don't. I mean, there's not much to say about it. It was garbage.
Yeah.
Number 31. Another garbage movie. Captain Marvel.
Now here's the question: what makes it better than Eternals?
It came out a lot longer ago, so I don't remember how bad it was as much as the Eternals, which I watched just 3 months ago or whatever.
So you're being having recency.
Yes, I have a little recency bias, sure. If I have watched Captain Marvel more recently, I might have put it further down. But Captain Marvel, it's a just uncompelling story. Okay, I will tell you what makes it better. Jude Law. There you go.
I forget who that character is. Jude, the little girl in.
Jude Law is an actor,
Oh,
and he plays Korvac, I believe, right? Korvac,
here
Cobalt.
I am just saying he's a little.
Anyways, he's a very good actor, and so his acting ability makes Captain Marvel better than Eternals.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Number 30, we have Black Widow.
Ah, yes, Black Widow.
Uh, the thing that puts it above the last two movies is the first act. The first act is good.
I
The
can
rest
agree
of
with
it
that.
is terrible. Villain is so disappointing. Yeah, about all I have to say about it.
Yeah, I would say I can agree with all those points. I can agree fully on all those points.
At number 29, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Sad thing is, I don't remember much from the movie.
That's okay. The only reason I remember things from the movie is I watched it recently.
So here's the thing about Ant-Man and the Wasp. I mean, I remember being excited to see Wasp, but I think I was saddened by the fact that she didn't do much. I feel like, or she
She does
was.
a lot, but
Am I getting it confused with the villain Ghost?
Ghost doesn't do much. She just shows up to be there. Bring a heartwarming story that wrenches your heart.
Oh, okay.
Here's the thing. There are a lot of characters in that movie that do nothing. There's the villain guy, bald guy, like the actor, but um yeah.
I
He's trying to get the
the person
he's
who's
like the
helping
mob guy, right? And he's like getting her the
the juices.
yeah, or whatever.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and he's like, oh, but why do you want these? And he's like, oh, I want to get him. And then he's like chasing him the rest of the movie. It doesn't
yeah.
really make sense.
I
And then you got Goliath, right, played by Fisher, whatever the name is. The other guy that played played. The other guy that had grown really big, he was like the professor guy helping Ghost.
Oh,
He's like old friends with Hank Pym. He's another guy doesn't really do much. Ghost just is there to make trouble.
yeah. She.
Uh and have a sad story. Um and then like the main story of them trying to get Janet back.
Yeah.
Fine, just
Could have been better.
boring, in my opinion.
No, really, you thought it was boring.
Very boring. The whole movie was so boring. And then like the best part of the movie, the whole like father daughter story that they had going on through one and into the second one, they just kind of brush aside and just try to turn into like
Yeah.
humorous. And I was like, oh, that was the only good thing. And then they continue it in Endgame and stuff. But it's like, why did you have this section so boring about it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anything
Anything
else?
else?
No. Okay. Number 28, Shang-Chi.
Because I've seen it recently, I was very, I was fairly disappointed in the movie.
Yeah, the reason it's at where it is isn't lower is because I mean the first act is good and the fight scenes are spectacular. The reason it isn't higher is it's so boring and there's so
Yeah.
many flashbacks and so much dialogue and so much exposition and just so many characters that they bring in and have to spend so long on each
Yeah.
one and they like go nowhere. None of the characters go anywhere. They all start and end at the same spot.
Except for one that is like probably the worst character.
Right. And then but the action was really good for the most part, except for the
All right.
third act's garbage. All right. Number 27. This is gonna ruffle some feathers.
Yeah, it is.
Iron Man 3.
Now let's talk about why it's in our number 27.
All right. Why it's not higher, as most people would probably think it should be, is in my opinion, as I've said with the last of those, it's so boring. Such an uncompelling story, in my opinion. Where it's like a good concept, but the execution not there. Um, the concept of him losing his suit, having to do things without it, uh, trying to fight against the Ten Rings or whatever.
AIM, I would say, because they were
Aim, yeah,
AIM.
like all really compelling, but the execution of it was just so boring. Where you're just like watching him mm, flippantly lose his armor,
Mm-hmm.
go around without his suit, just like he was not really doing anything except just like trying to get somewhere. Like if he was like doing like detective work and it was like, oh, we're seeing a different side of Tony Stark, that'd been interesting, but that's not what he's doing. He's just being Tony Stark without his armor,
Yeah,
you know?
and they do a little bit of detective work when he's
Right.
doing with the hologram and trying to figure
Oh, and
out.
then I didn't even talk about Extremists. Such a dumb storyline.
Yeah, agreed.
And it's such a good storyline in the comics, which kind of is disappointing.
Yeah, they should have had more time of him being in his armor than
Or just like
as Iron Man.
made his character outside of his armor more interesting. Like he was him inside the armor, outside his armor, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
It's
see
like
what you.
it's like I don't know. They just could have written a much more compelling character at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Tony Stark can be a really good character. In other movies, as we'll see later. Yeah, I think he's great, but not in this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh
Is there anything else?
the twist wasn't great.
Mm,
Terrible twist.
pretty
All right,
horrible.
moving on. Number 26.
I think so. Yeah.
Number 26, we have our first TV show on the list. Cap. So I mean, not Captain Falcon
I mean, technically.
and the Winter Soldier. Yes, technically he's Captain America at this point, but Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Another one, really good first episode, really good concept, just really poorly executed. The
Mm-hmm.
villain should have been really good, could have been really compelling, really threatening, really interesting, like one that you'd almost be like, ooh, are they like, is this like a good idea, like, but
Yeah.
just played so wrong. You didn't like them. You didn't want them to succeed. You didn't want them to lose. Like you just didn't care.
Mm-hmm. And the first episode was pretty good, right? You agree with that?
Yes, first episode's quite good.
Yeah. And but
John
then
Walker, best character.
And like you said, the bad guys, could have been a very very interesting group of guys, but
Flag
um,
smashers.
yeah, the Flag Smashers. Like I was interested in them, but they just kind of fell downhill
Yeah,
pretty fast.
like you know James Buchanan Barnes, aka Bucky, aka Winter Soldier. His uh, storyline's pretty intriguing, and then the parallels with Steve Rogers are pretty interesting, and then uh, John Walker's storyline's pretty interesting. But Falcon, the side, all the side ones they didn't spend enough time on or too much time on, and so you just like never really got drawn into them. And then the villains you never really got drawn into either. Oh, and Zemo and
Yeah,
uh,
I wanted
what was her
Zemo to be
name? Sharon's name.
Sharon Carter.
I know what was her the broker the
Yeah, I think it was the broker.
yeah, like just not interesting at all.
Mm-hmm. Could have been more interesting, but
Yep. Another one, number 25, that well, people will probably be very annoyed. It's so high, actually, is The Incredible Hulk.
yes. Um, I think probably the one biggest problem I can see in it is the actor. I want to say because I understand like you have actors, and you could possibly lose an actor if, and you may have to recast and all that. But um, I think that's kind of one of the main problems of it.
So your problem is Edward Norton's acting,
No, 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 no.
or just the fact that they changed actors?
I would say it was the fact that they changed actors.
All right.
While yes, I understand the whole problem with like,
Right. So you're saying like the problem, yeah, and I'd say that is one of the reasons that it gets forgotten so easily, right? Is that Edward Norton's not playing the Hulk after that, or vice versa. Blanking on his name. Uh, Mark Ruffalo is not playing Hulk in that movie, so it just is an incongruency. So I like a lot of fans have a hard time like feeling like it's even an MCU movie. I know a lot of people who haven't even seen it and they're like, "Wait, that's an MCU movie?"
yeah.
Um and so yes, that is a problem. I never had specifically had that problem. Like I watched it like when I started watching the MCU movies and started watching them in order. I didn't start at the start, but um I watched Iron Man, then I watched Incredible Hulk because that was the next one that came out. So I watched them in order. It just felt like it was part of the MCU to me. It might have been just the way I watched them. And I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's a great movie by any stretch. I think Edward Norton plays a way better Hulk and Bruce Banner character than
Mm-hmm.
Mark Ruffalo does. I understand people's frustrations with him. He's not exactly he like does didn't he didn't play the Hulk and Bruce Banner that really makes sense for the world he's in the movie, but he did do a good job of portraying what at least I draw from the comics. So I enjoyed that part of it. The story I think is fun, and enjoy the movie. Um,
Okay.
but I don't think it's great by any stretch. The the leader is lame. The third act is just lame.
The
It
third act is
is
pretty
pretty lame.
horrible.
But
Um,
I definitely
I
enjoy the
mean, we
movie.
get to see the Hulk clap.
That was pretty cool. Sonic clap. Yep, fun. All right, moving on. Number 24. Another one that people may be a little frustrated where it's
Did we
at.
even say it?
Iron Man 2.
Yep.
Yes, that's right. Iron Man 2 is better than Iron Man 3, baby.
And the reason for that, I think you can
The
explain
reason
it
for that
better.
is pretty simple. Justin Hammer. The acting in that movie, the portraying of characters in that movie is just a step above Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3, yes, like both of them have their faults, right? I don't really like Iron Man 2. Okay. Iron Man 2, I don't know, but it just has like a nostalgia like watching it, the soundtrack's good, the acting's good. Like Tony Stark's way more fun in that movie.
Oh yeah.
And so it's just its faults are basically the same, third act is really bad. Um the story is not compelling, the bad guy isn't compelling. The bad guy doesn't draw you in. The story doesn't really draw you in, but the acting is just better. Just far and away better. You learn so much more about Tony Stark, even though they try to teach you so much more in Iron Man 3. And that's why I think it's better than those movies. And every like going back and watching them, I don't ever want to watch Iron Man 3 again. I've watched it 3 times, I think, and every time is just like so dumb. Iron Man 2, I can go back and keep watching. That's the difference. I can keep watching Iron Man 2. I don't like it, but every time I watch it, I'm like, okay, it's fine.
Okay, okay. Um, I definitely liked Iron Man 2 over Iron Man 3. I thought it was a lot better. Um, I thought Whiplash using the arc reactor was kind of an interesting step.
I do like um I do like what that set up for later on in the MCU.
Yeah, showing that other people can steal Tony Stark's weapons and stuff.
And like he had to like learn to like improve upon his armor,
Oh yeah,
so much more after that. And that's why that's and then in Iron Man 3 he does it and then he destroys all his armor, so yeah, whatever. But then you see that progress all the way up until Infinity Wars when you see his
oh
most
yeah.
advanced, and then Endgame when you see
Let's
him have an armor that can literally.
let's
Anyways,
get
moving
back
on.
on track here. Let's move on from Iron Man 2
All right,
and
at number 23 we have Ant-Man. Ant-Man. Very forgettable, forgettable movie, but one that once again I think the acting performances are quite good. The casting choices were really good. Um, for me, the humor doesn't really hit.
hmm
Like it's not funny, but it's enjoyable.
yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree with that. Ant Man. See, I'm actually a pretty big fan of Ant Man as a hero
Yes,
in the MCU, I guess, in the comics and stuff like that. Because
Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Earth's Mightiest Heroes, thank you. um, but seeing it this way and not seeing our glorious Hank Pym play as Ant Man was kind of sad, but at the same time understandable because he's kind of an older.
Right. Yeah. I like. I think I like the choice of Scott Lang over Hank Pym for the MCU. I agree in the comics and in other adaptations of the character. Hank Pym, I think, is more of an interesting, deep character than Scott Lang. Scott Lang doesn't really
Yeah.
have the depth, and that comes through, and that's kind of, I think, a lot of the reasons why they went with a Paul Rudd, a more humorous take on it, and I think that all works really well. Um, but it just really wasn't my style of movie. I felt
Mm-hmm.
like it was kind of like towing, like trying to be multiple types of movies at the same time. It was like the superhero movie, it was like the heist movie, it was like the witty banter movie, it was like the comedy, it was like the drama, all at the same time. And I didn't really feel like it nailed any of them. It kind of was okay at all of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I have it so low. Anything else?
Um, What it, I don't know if I don't think I liked how Wasp was the bad guy.
You mean Yellow Jacket?
Yeah, I knew that. I knew the
Yeah.
name.
I mean, I don't have like a lot of people, are like, oh, he's basically the exact same thing as Ant Man. I hate it when heroes fight themselves. That
No.
part I don't really care about. The part I don't like was Cross. I can't remember his first name, but who he actually was, right? Like this, like I never really like when they like this corporate guy who's like, oh, he's like evil for some reason, doesn't he
Oh
like go
yeah,
into
yeah,
his
yeah.
backstory, he just is evil and wants his tech to be
I think he wanted to
wants to make
sell it to the
money or
Ten Rings
whatever.
because there was a Ten Rings guy.
Well, I mean, he wants to sell it to whoever will pay.
That's true. He is a.
And he wants to make weapons, so he's evil and therefore he's gonna go into the suit for some reason and use
Yeah,
it to kill Ant-Man. Just like, what?
yeah,
Like, I'm fine with Yellow Jacket being the villain. I'm not really a fan of Cross. I cannot remember his first name being the villain.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind of how I feel about him.
Okay,
All right, moving on to number 22.
22.
All right.
Getting through this fast.
Yeah, 22.
All right,
We have another TV show, Loki.
Loki. What shall we say about Loki? Um,
Um, I love Loki. I mean, we talked about it a little bit last episode. I like Loki. I The story's fine. King's interesting. There's places they can go with it. But
Mm-hmm.
it was just kind of there. Didn't like Lady Loki at all. Thought the casting was bad. Thought her character was boring. Thought the ending was pretty lame. But I liked Loki and most of the other Lokis. And yeah,
Okay, okay. I mean, everything you said is basically what I think as well.
okay.
So,
All right. So moving on from that, we have number 22. What if?
what if? Very interesting. I think there was a lot of interesting concepts for like different versions of the Marvel universe. There was, we had zombies, we had Star Lord, we had
Ultron,
Ultron, we had
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, Hank Pym.
Yep.
We had all these other.
I like all the universes it explored. I liked seeing the Watcher and like him being the narrator and then becoming a character later on. Um, why it's not higher? Like I love the show. This is getting to movies that I either really like or like, and I love a lot of the show. There's just some episodes that really felt like filler episodes, just like trying to quickly tell a story so that they could have them in there for the final act,
Yeah.
final episode. And that's why it's not higher. There's some episodes I just didn't care nearly as much for. Some episodes I didn't feel were important.
Hmm.
And then, but yeah, all in all, it was a really, really fun, really cool to see all the universes. I'm really looking forward to season 2, the spin-offs, all that.
Yeah.
Moving on, we're about to get to some real controversial
Oh,
stuff
this is
here.
gonna be interesting.
We're about to say some things that are going to rub people the wrong way. And probably starting out with a movie that people thought should be much, much lower, or maybe some people think it should be much, much higher. But here it is, right? Basically smack and no, not in the middle, but
Not in
close
the
to the
middle
middle.
yet.
Like 20th, I think we're at, right? 20.
He's counting, so don't worry.
Yeah. Right here at number 20, we have, well, let's just go 20 and 19 together here because I can never decide which one to put in front of the other.
Oh, I know which one to put in
20,
front of the other.
20th, I guess I'm going to say is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and 19 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm. So, why at least I think these should be right here is, it was, while yes, there are. It's supposed to be a humorous movie. Is that the right word I want to use?
Humorous comedy, yeah.
Yeah, comedy. That's what I was looking for. Comedy movie. Um, and Volume One I thought was better than Volume Two. Volume Two I felt like just tried to redo a lot of the stuff. While yes, there were different aspects like Yondu and Star Lord or Groot and Rocket. Um, I personally think that Volume One is a lot better. In
Here are my thoughts about it. I
oh dear,
think I have them right here for a reason, like next to each other. It's super hard for me to pick one over the other. I like both movies. I don't love either movie. Um, and I think that Guardians of the Galaxy, like, people think it's like the best Marvel movie. And that's because it was like the first one that like wrote this type of story that they used a lot later on. It's the first one that really brought the humor as like the main part of it. Um, and that's why like so many people like put it so high. It's the first one that like had this big, big giant universe, flying from planet to planet, like almost like bringing like Star Wars and Marvel together. I
don't you dare!
I didn't care for any of that personally. They the humor in both I think hits just as well. Uh I like the humor in both. I don't love the humor in both. Um I mean I laughed, I cried, I whatnot. The stories through each were both all right. The villains in each were both
They
terrible.
were pretty bad. Like,
Horrible villains.
and I'm a fan of Ronan. Like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Ronan's a really great villain and had so much going for him.
yeah.
Like the intimidation factor was there,
Oh
and
yeah.
then just the portrayal of him and the what he decides to do, and then the way he's defeated is all just So ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Um,
So that but the reason that it's super hard for me, even though I think Guardians of the Galaxy is a better movie, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the father son relationship between Yondu and Star Lord, and the like father son esque relationship between Rocket Raccoon and Groot is so much better than anything Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 has to offer.
I can agree
And
with that.
that is why it's so hard for me not to put it above it, even though I know that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 is a better movie and it came first. It did it just as good, if not better. That's the reason. Like that story was the only part of either movie that drew me in was those stories, and then they were in the second one, and that's why it's really hard for me not to put it above it. So they're basically tied, in my opinion. But Gecko Man influenced me into putting Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 ahead, and that's fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but it has to be done.
I mean, I'm pretty sure 99.99% of the people in the world agree with you, not me. So, all right, moving on. Two more movies that are going to be very
Oh
controversial.
man, this is well, in my opinion, I think there's a good placement in these. Like I think they are perfect where they are.
I think, yeah. I mean, like, there's a reason we put them here, right? Like,
Yeah.
for us, but like, we know that we're going against the grain on this next one for sure.
Oh yeah.
And that is ranking Thor Ragnarok at number 18
Mm-hmm.
and Thor the Dark World at
Oh,
number 17.
that's just scary to say, you know. So let's talk. Why don't we start with Thor
All
Ragnarok?
right. Starting with Thor Ragnarok and why it is below Thor the Dark World and not number two, like most people think it should be, seemingly.
For me personally, I think it's just too comedy. Like I think there's way too much comedy into it.
So, with the comedy and comedic effect of Thor Ragnarok, I think that, I mean, Taika Waititi is a fabulous director. I like a lot of his movies.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, like, the actors that play, you know, Chris Hemsworth, Thor, I forgot his name again, Mark Ruffalo's, like, they do a really good job at comedy. But the drastic change in the story of Thor from Thor: The Dark World to uh, Age of Ultron and then to Ragnarok is just
Yeah.
like his character change for no reason except to have a completely different type of movie. It was so drastic and jarring, and yeah, I think his character arc in the movie is great. Like the way he goes from, you know, he's like we haven't seen Thor torn down like that, right? Like yes, in the first one we see him lose his powers, but we haven't seen him like humiliated in the way he was and then like brought back against a power that he himself he this is the first time we've actually seen him not believe he can do something, right? He's always been like the I'm
Oh yeah.
Thor, nothing can hurt me type of guy, and now we see him actually have to face Hela who's way more powerful than him seemingly and him thinking he can't defeat her but being able to learn who he truly is and become something powerful enough to fight her
That
and
will
bring Ragnarok around to defeat her.
yeah. I actually liked what I liked about it was the fact that Hulk actually. I understand Hulk was like a little kid in that movie, but I actually like that Hulk wasn't just a raging beast throughout the entire time.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I guess I'm not a fan of Mark Ruffalo playing Hulk
I agree. I
and
agree.
Bruce Banner.
But for this
But for this part of the MCU, yeah, it
yeah
was fine.
for Mark Ruffalo to play Hulk, I thought it was a nice change of pace for Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was
Yeah,
very nice to have for Hulk to
and
be
then everything it sets up really well for Infinity War
oh yeah.
with Thor's powers for Bruce Banner not and Hulk's little
Yeah.
arguments. I don't know what fights, little
Yeah, exactly.
thing. Yeah, I think that all sets up well for what's coming.
Um
But why is Thor: The Dark World better? Would you like to?
well, for me, I liked the whole yeah, I felt like while yes, I didn't really like the final fight. I liked the whole aspect of us being able to see Thor like deal with basically an Infinity Stone. I want to say.
Yeah, I disagree with like everybody I've ever talked to on this movie. Everybody says how boring and slow and um uncompelling the story is, the villain is, how it just drags on. I disagree 100%. The story is, I love the story. I like the story of Thor now becoming king and having so much responsibility on his shoulders.
Oh yeah.
I like the story of him now coming back to Earth and like Jane Foster like just living in a completely different world than him and not understanding anything, and then being taken to Asgard and learning about the world and like learning
Oh
who
yeah.
Thor, how important Thor is on that world, and like learning how important he is to the whole universe, and then that all being threatened by one event coming. And I think Malekith was a good villain for that. I don't, yes, I do think he as a villain is pretty boring, but he's not the central part, and that's what was needed because we're learning so much about Thor in the movie and
Mm-hmm.
so much about Asgard and Earth and this convergence that's coming and things that can affect more than just Earth. And that's all leading up, of course, to Age of Ultron happening and then Infinity War happening. And that's why I think it's so important. It's such a good movie. The final fight, like leading up to the final fight where he's going through the portals and throwing his hammer and like losing it and having to call and
Oh
it's like coming in. That was super fun. It dragged on for really long. And then the final fight where he's like, you know, it was a little boring where he's
yeah.
like, it was just like Thor being Thor type of thing. But that's why I really liked the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I did
and
like the whole thing with Loki and Thor.
And then yeah, I really like Loki in the movie. I really like how it portrays Loki's character since what has happened,
Yeah.
in Avengers, and then him, the consequence of what happened, and then like his character not changing at all, and Thor still believing in him. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't like that. Like Thor should know by now that Loki's evil. Be like
They're
that's
brothers.
literally what makes Thor Thor is the fact that he always believes in Asgard and
Yeah.
always believes in his father, always believes in his mother, always believes in his brother. And that's what makes him, that's why he should be king and not Loki. And that's what we learn in that movie. And then it ends with Loki on the throne. I love that.
That was pretty good.
And the humor in that movie actually I found to be pretty good, even though a lot of people didn't. I think it's fine. Like
Yeah, I
it's
thought it
pretty
was.
funny. And that is why we have it that ranked that way. I don't have a problem with people, putting, Ragnarok ahead, even putting Thor the Dark World way lower on their list. I do have a problem with people putting Ragnarok in like the top three of MCU movies. I have a big like that is absolutely ridiculous. If you're putting Thor Ragnarok against some of the movies that we're gonna get to, and you're actually putting them story to story, there isn't even a comparison. The story writing in these other movies is so much better.
Let's move on.
Sorry,
Let's get off of
sorry
Thor
before
now.
I get too
You
heated there.
you can get heated over Thor. I understand that. Let's move on
And I
from.
love Thor. Like, just wait till we get to some of these other movies and I talk about how much I love Thor. His character is so well done. But putting Thor Ragnarok as high as so many people do is absolutely ridiculous. Moving on. Moving on. Sorry. I had to get that out. All right. Moving on to I've lost my where are we? Number 16, I believe. We have another one that'll probably ruffle some people's feathers here. Black Panther.
Black Panther. What you liked about it?
All right. We're gonna go back to the first time I watched this movie. Going into it, it might have been the highest expectations of any movie I had at that point.
Really?
Since then, there's been movies I've had way higher expectations for. I should say MCU. Of course, there's been other movies outside MCU I had higher expectations for. But yeah, going into it the first time I watched it, I had very high expectations. I really like Black Panther's character in uh everything I've seen him in, everything I've read about him. Um, I really like a lot of his character arcs in the comics. They take him in some crazy
Stories
adventures and
and
stories and character arcs and stuff, and I really like most of them. going in, I was really, really interested in seeing. I'd never seen Chadwick Boseman in a movie before, I don't think, and like really seeing this new actor at the time play this role that in my eyes was iconic, and many people's eyes it was not. But me coming in, going into it, I was like, "Oh my goodness, he's playing Black Panther. What's Black Panther going to be like? What's Wakanda going to be like? How are they going to portray adamant? I mean, vibranium in the MCU? All those things were really, really important to me. And going into the movie, I had very high expectations. That to be said, the first two acts of the movie met those expectations. I wouldn't say exceeded all of them, exceeded some, but met nearly all of the expectations. And
Okay. Yeah. What about Killmonger in those first two acts?
yeah, like I'm saying, the whole movie did. Yeah, Killmonger in the first two acts, great.
Okay.
Soundtrack in the first two acts, great. Storyline in the first two acts, great. Characters, except for Shuri, great. I really liked the portrayal of Black Panther. I really liked the portrayal of T'Challa and the King of Wakanda and his mother and the royalty of like Wakanda. I really like the portrayal of Claw and the
Oh yeah.
villains trying to steal vibranium and like vibranium and the effect it's having on the world. I really liked Killmonger and his story of like like the world he comes from and the world he knows, the world he believes he's a part of, and like trying to spread that to the whole world and use use it for what he considered and most people like even T'Challa probably considered to be a good end, but the wrong means, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Um, really compelling. The story, the battle for the kingship and everything. Can't remember what it's called for some reason. And the
Oh the. Oh man. When they're fighting on the
yeah,
waterfall.
and like the story of Ape Man. I can't remember what they call him in the.
Yeah, I
I
forget.
know. I don't know what he's called in the comics. I can't remember what he's called in the. Uh, kill.
We're calling him Ape Man.
No. Oh my gosh. Anyways, um, and that whole like this fight where he can lose his throne. Um, it is very very like unique and interesting story, which I personally found to be M'Baku. Sorry.
Umbaku.
Um, which I found to be really good in that first part. Then the third act came, and the train wreck that it was.
Oh yes.
The final fight, the
Shall we say
CGI
the
mess.
Rhino wreck?
I like that. Yes. The rhino wreck that it was. Um, the final fight between Black Panther and Killmonger was terrible CGI mess. It,
Oh
it
yeah.
made no sense for it to be underground where no one could see it when it's supposed to be this public display of the fight for the throne. And
Well, it wasn't
I've
really.
always said this would be one of my favorite MCU movies if they just changed one thing, and that was have Black Panther and Killmonger fight in front of the nation of Wakanda with nobody nobody else fighting them, all watching.
Mm.
If that happened in the final act, though I think the final act has other problems than that, it would have been a top tier Marvel movie in my opinion.
Oh, just so
But they did
just the
not do that.
changing of the fight.
Yeah, just the changing of the fight and that compiled with the other mess of the third act that the third act was just
Yeah.
really really ruins the movie for me.
Yeah. Deep breaths. Deep breaths.
All right. Anything else you want to say about that before we move on?
Other than the fact that like
Oh, and you get to see Bucky at the end.
yeah, Bucky was pretty nice to see.
Ah,
Other than the fact that, well, yes, did not like the whole fact that they had to fight underground. Um, you gotta understand that there was that whole big battle happening at the.
right. And but like that's what I'm
But
saying. Like, yes, that would change a lot to not have that battle going on too, right?
yeah, exactly.
And that just like that battle was so unnecessary in my opinion.
Yeah, for
It
some
didn't
like
add to the movie. It was like these side characters. It was literally like in movies where it's like side characters fighting, and guess what? We don't care about that. We're gonna watch our main characters fight.
yeah,
And it's like,
exactly.
then why
Well,
are they
no,
fighting in the first place?
yeah, like why not just
They're
have
just like showing off Shuri and Yuri and
just showing off all these
The
how
rhinos.
Wakanda fights,
Yeah,
basically.
I hate those stupid cape
Oh.
shield things, whatever the heck they call them.
Yeah, it would have been more interesting to. Would it be more interesting to at least have these two characters basically leading these two armies?
Yeah, and then it's almost like like the your champions of your army go up and they fight for, and that's like would have been such a better
Oh yeah,
final act. All right, moving on though. Enough talking about Black Panther. Number 15, Hawkeye.
Hawkeye. I want to say it's a good show, not a terrible show. Good show. Loved the fact that Kingpin was in it. Was kind of sad how fast he left. you know, saying.
Yeah. For me, like this is kind of interchangeable with Black Panther. I don't really if I was put Black Panther ahead of it, like or if people do, like I don't care. Like it has the exact same problems as Black Panther, where the whole thing's great,
Yeah.
every bit of it's great until the final act.
Yeah.
And the final act's just kind of a mess. Things happening, fights going on.
I mean,
I was like
let's
you. I loved Kingpin showing up, and then he just kind of goes.
yeah, exactly. Now, I think it would be a lot better for the final act to have our favorite sword guy.
If all we did was watch,
I forget his
I
name,
can't
but
remember his name either. But
us
him
and names today.
just him sword fighting outside. That would have been great. Um, but yeah, the final act just kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
Um, and I get that they're having to cram a lot into that final episode, but I mean, in my opinion, they just had to do it better or make a lot longer episode,
Yeah,
where we actually
exactly.
get to see Kingpin, get to see Echo, like get to see all our character stories wrap up.
A lot better.
And that's about all I had to say about that.
Yeah, there
We'll
was.
probably have a
I mean, I guess it was kind of interesting to see Hawkeye go throughout the city fighting these people that he fought as Ronin, but
yeah, a lot of these coming up in the top like 15 we'll probably do full reviews on later. So, probably get to hear more about this. But that's about all I have to say about it right now.
yeah, nothing I can.
I really liked Hawkeye in it. Really liked his storyline. Didn't think I was gonna like Kate Bishop very much going in. Like, thought they were like bringing in another Hawkeye this late. Like they were gonna have to kind of nail her, in my opinion, and I think they did.
Okay.
Nailed her really well. Yeah. All right, moving on to number 14. We have WandaVision, our top
Um,
TV show,
yes.
as we learned last week, and then once again, this is one I think it's better than Hawkeye. I think it's better than Black Panther, but it also has the same issue. It's a fabulous TV show all the way up to the final act.
It was, as you said, it was a. I don't know. Actually, you may not have said this. It was a CGI mess.
Yes, the final fight is a CGI mess. It's not as big of a CGI mess as the final Black Panther fight, but it is a CGI mess.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like up in the sky, like or everything's taking place in Westview. Everything's like about the town, about what's going on, and then it's like our final fight's above it, like not
Yeah.
even in the town. Like that's a little disappointing in my opinion. I would have
It was
rather,
in the bubble.
yeah, the bubble that was growing, it was taking over the world. Um, I guess the redeeming quality of it is like I do like that the way she defeated her wasn't just like a CGI mess, like the
Oh
way
yeah.
she defeated her wasn't just like lasers and rockets and explosions and she happens to, be more powerful than her. It was more like no, she outwitted her.
Yeah. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
used her own things against her.
Um.
That was nice, I guess. A little nice bow on it.
Yeah. For me, why I think it actually deserves to be up above all the other TV shows is there was a lot more mystery to it.
There was just like so much like I had a like going into the first episode I had low expectations, but after the first episode I had huge expectations for every episode, and every episode did not disappoint at all until the final episode, of course. And
Like,
I have never had so much fun watching a TV show in my entire life.
yeah, and you watched it like
Oh, I watched every episode.
countless times.
I mean, the first 5 episodes I think I watched individually 5 to 7 times.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then after that, like I kind of like had figured out what was going to happen, and I watched the last couple episodes only 2 or 3 times each. But
Yeah, and you kept messaging me just like,
Yes,
yeah,
and
let's.
I could have taught I at the time I could have had a podcast episode on every single episode, and each one could have lasted hours. I loved that show at the time of watching it. I've rewatched it since, and it is stands up. It is so good.
All right.
All right, now moving on to possibly the most controversial thing I will say all day,
Oh my goodness.
and that is that number 13 is Captain America Civil War.
But tell me why it's so controversial, and
All
I'll
right.
tell you why I like
I
it.
This movie is just controversial. I've had heard people say that this is the greatest MCU movie. I've heard people say this is the worst MCU movie. Those both are ridiculous statements. Um I've heard people say that uh I've heard people say things about this movie's story being so well written it ranks up there with like the greatest movies of all time. That is so wrong.
He wanted to grab his mic.
This movie
um,
I very much enjoyed. After the first time I watched it, I turned to my best friend sitting next to me and I said, "This is my favorite MCU movie I've ever watched."
Civil War,
Yeah.
really?
It was, granted, it was like 2 in the morning and I was very tired, but the first, it is a very fun movie to watch, especially in theaters. It was
Mm-hmm.
gorgeous. It was fun. The atmosphere, you know, all the fans there on opening night. It was a great experience. But then going to the theater again to watch it a second time, I realized that without that experience of watching it the first time, just breaking the movie down as a movie itself, it has a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Now it does a lot of things right, and that's why it's so high on this list. And I still enjoy watching it to this day. I watched it a little over a month ago for my fifth or sixth time watching it,
Really?
and I still enjoy the movie a lot. But I have some big problems with it. Before I go into my
Really?
problems, would you like to say what you like? Like
So
let's go your back to your first time watching it. What did you think the first time you watched
well, so the problem. Let me explain why the problem with with this movie for me was I really liked it the first time, and then the second time I watched it, I still thought it was good. I saw some problems. I didn't catch them as quickly as you did. It just took me longer to realize those problems. So over the time it
it?
took, I was thinking about like, oh, that happened.
Yeah, so for me, like this movie has been a roller coaster. I think after the first time I watched it, I think I put it like my favorite. Like I was like, it's my favorite movie. Second time watching it, I was like, no,
Yeah.
this is one of the worst MC movies. And then since then, it's found its nice little middle ground of like what, number 13, so almost exactly in the middle, right?
Yeah.
It is, yeah. So here's my problems with it: the dialogue of that movie and the exposition in that movie
Oh
is
yeah.
so poorly written. It's
Mm-hmm.
not boring necessarily because the acting is actually good, and so like the acting pushes the dialogue forward and doesn't like make every instant as skin
Oh.
curdling bad. But the dialogue, the way it's written, is it doesn't say why they're choosing like you I don't know. Watching it to this day, I still don't know why characters chose what they chose. What the
Mm.
sides they chose. Like it doesn't explain anything. It just like sets it's just like they talk and they pick their sides and they go with them. The whole first scene with Barf, I didn't that scene. Oh, I do not like that scene at all.
Oh, that was
Um and then yeah, in it, but the storylines in it are really good, right? Iron Man versus Captain America, them butting heads on like such a uh what
uh,
big what's like what am I looking for, like
I have no idea. You're waving words
an
around.
issue that is so
Big.
important to the MCU, like
Yeah.
a decision that's so important to our heroes, and them you know giving their sides, and then that like leading all the way to an actual like battle between them. And then we bring in our villain. Our villain, in my opinion, and I know I disagree with the majority of people out there, is poorly written.
Yep.
He's has once again a great concept, a concept of him dividing the Avengers, him getting revenge, him getting uh him trying to break down this thing that everybody sees as like perfect, the Avengers, this like icon, and him destroying that, bringing it down to our level. Sorry for quoting the DC there. But is really good, really great story, a really great idea. But once again, when I watch it, I don't feel that. I don't feel who he like this. I don't I don't know how to say it, but like I just don't feel like that's who he is. Like I
Yeah.
understand that that's what they're going for, but I didn't feel
Really?
that watching it. And so, though it has my favorite MCU character, James Buchanan Barnes, aka Bucky, aka Winter Soldier, and you get to learn so much more about his character. You get to see him do so much more. The action once again is fabulous.
Yep.
The fight scenes, even the chaos of the airport fight scene
Oh,
is still great. And the final fight between Captain America, Bucky against Iron Man, so good. It just
yeah.
falls short in my opinion.
For me, like when I was first heard about this movie and I was first gonna go watch it, I was so excited. Like the concept of heroes fighting each other was like I had such high expectations for this movie. And while I absolutely loved the fact that they fought in the fought at the airport and they fought, it was just so short. It was very short. There wasn't a lot of fighting between heroes.
It was a little, yeah, it was a little unexpectedly short. Yes, I didn't necessarily have a issue with it. I understand people's issue with that. It did what it had to do. Introduced the characters to each other that didn't
Yeah.
know each other. It showed you the abilities. It showed you, the fights that we wanted to see. It showed you the fights
Mm-hmm.
that we didn't know we needed. But and then it ends with a tragic crash, I guess, of
Yeah.
Rhodey
Yeah.
that oh for me didn't hit like
Yeah,
I didn't.
I would have been much more interested if maybe like someone else took a fall. Like,
I will say the tone of the movie at that point, the like the what's the right word, the contrast between the chase that's going on and Vision holding Wanda, and then just like the slow turn of his head, the fire of his
oh
laser,
yeah, that was pretty.
the wide shot, seeing it just pierce the armor,
Yeah. Oh, that was pretty good.
and the tumble, and then the shots of them chasing him. Beautiful. All great filming, great storytelling. But I don't know what it was. Like it just didn't I didn't feel the impact of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of the
You
whole
didn't feel the
movie.
impact of
That
the
was the
ground.
whole movie. Okay, that was a little dark right there. Oh my, um and that's kind of how I feel about most of the movie. Like a lot of it was well done, beautiful. Just I didn't feel the impact of it like I really had hoped I would, especially after having watched the first time and the experience I had.
Yeah. Shall we?
Yeah, I guess we can move on. There's a lot more I could say. I could
There's
talk
so
about.
much more,
In
but we could
fact, I
probably.
probably we should definitely do pretty soon a review of that movie
Yeah,
because I think
probably we should do.
it's such a controversial movie, and I know we both have very strong opinions about it.
There's some very strong
All right,
opinions.
number 12, another one that's gonna shock most, especially when it's ahead of Civil War, but that's all right. And that is Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Yep. Me personally, I thought it was a great movie. I loved it. While yes, there were some problems with it, I thought that our villain in it was supposed to be that way. Like that's how Ultron is. He has his army of robots and he's going to destroy all humankind to save the world.
Yeah, I do definitely disagree with people who think that Ultron was a poor villain in the film. I think that he is definitely not what people expected,
Mm-hmm.
but he was very much who he is in the comics. Like he has his end goal and he's going to accomplish it. He's not going to put himself in harm's way if he doesn't have to, and he's just going to overwhelm you. And his goal is to yes, to destroy the whole world to save the world.
Yeah.
Um, I think that the what I like about the movie and why it's so high is every character has a really well written story, character arc, and the wrap up to that character arc that has now been a lot of them has been in 4 plus movies to this point.
Mm.
This would be the fourth for yeah, this would be the fourth movie for a lot of these characters to appear in, and their characters weren't, none of them were really a letdown for me, and that's hard to do. Um, and that's kind of like what puts this movie as high as it is. I don't have as big of a problem with a lot of the movies that I will list later on, like people ranking them lower. But I personally love the movie. I've enjoyed it every time I've watched it. James Spader's voice of Ultron is just still to this day chilling to listen
Oh
to.
yeah, so good.
Um, every hero
Like,
is so fun.
um,
Every minute that of even down to like the after party, at Stark Tower is just it's
yeah.
just really fun. I love seeing the characters. I love seeing their interaction.
Yeah, so yeah, like Ultron. Ultron. I don't want to say he was the best villain because he wasn't. He's not the best villain, but he is a very good villain. Like he's a very good. And would you even consider him as a villain because he's trying to do what he thinks is right by what Tony Stark
Right.
put in his
He is a machine
Mm-hmm.
and he's doing what his program told him to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, he's a villain because he's
Trying to kill the
literally trying to kill
Emperor.
everybody. But yeah, that's what, in my opinion, makes him super compelling. Is like he is a part of Tony that does exist.
Yeah.
What isn't as compelling is the way we got there. The first act of the movie, in my
Mm.
opinion, is the weakest. Though it has really fun parts to it. I didn't I didn't feel Tony's story in the first act really got to a point where he would have created Ultron. And like the way that Ultron is created in almost an accident way, where
Oh.
he's at the party, he's created and then he like comes to consciousness and like makes these decisions on
Well,
his
no,
own
they
and
were
just
running it while the party was going.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. True, true, true.
So like he comes to consciousness with Tony Tart
Tony Stark.
Tony
Is this
Stank.
a new rendition of Tony
Sorry.
Stark?
Yeah, Tony Stank was at the party and he then makes his own like has his consciousness and makes his own decisions that this is what he's going to do and is the villain before like Tony has a say about it. So like in that way that's about as close to, Tony Stark not creating them as you can get, and that's
Yeah.
I guess fine. But at the same time the first act is a little
Boy.
underwhelming. But after the first act, it is a great movie.
Okay. Okay.
Anything else?
No, I
All
can't
right.
think of anything else. Let's move on.
All right, number 11.
Number 11 and final.
That's our final one on this episode. This is this is almost hard for me to say. Not putting this movie in the top 10 is really hard, but this top 10 is packed full of movies that I love just as much and even
Yeah,
more
it's.
than this movie.
I'm pretty sure we all know how difficult it is to make a top 10, even if you
Yes,
have this
of the
many.
a top 10 with 32 movies, of which I've enjoyed most of them so much. And this movie, which probably a good portion of people would put in their top 10 for no more than nostalgia's sake, I think just barely falls short of the
Mm-hmm.
top 10. And that is Iron Man.
Our very first Iron Man, the very first MCU movie. Why it's not in the top 10. I don't want to say it's why it's not so low, but why it's not in the
Yeah.
top 10 is because it was just kind of a it was just the first MCU movie.
I mean, I get that. I get that. I think there's one main reason that it doesn't make it, and this is like the kind of the reason a lot of these movies are where they're at compared to the top 10. And the thing that the top 10 does so well that this is missing is a incredible villain.
Mm.
Every MCU movie that is in our top 10, I think has an incredible villain written, what like the story of the villain, the way that they're written, the way they're portrayed, the acting performance of the villains are all really well done. Not this one. Obadiah Stane, he suffers from that same like Yellow Jacket, right? Like
Yeah.
this corporate guy who like suddenly at the end decides to get in a giant
Yeah,
ironmonger suit for some reason to kill the main character.
it would have been. I think it would have been more interesting for the Ten Rings.
100% agree. The Ten Rings, the first, once again, first two acts of this movie, fabulous.
Oh yeah.
The exploration of Iron Man's character, the seeing Iron Man broken down and to like this billionaire playboy philanthropist, you might say,
Yeah.
taken down to a guy in a cave with nothing but his wits and a
Nothing in
friend.
a nothing but a friend and a few scraps.
Yep. And seeing him then rise back to taking on the mantle of the only superhero at the time in the whole world
Yeah. I mean, let's think about it for a moment because Captain America.
is on ice at this moment. Well, where is he?
Oh.
We could go into the whole MCU chronological timeline. I do enjoy me a good chronological viewing of the MCU, but
Let's stay on track
let's
of
stay on
Iron
track of Iron Man.
Man.
But yeah, Obadiah Stane just like coming along and then just like killing or like
Yeah, he was a very weak villain.
so
But
weak.
I also understand I understand it. It was their first MCU movie. It's kind of hard to be like, do we want to bring in a big villain or do we want to stay small and stuff? Like I also didn't like the fact that he was just this corporate guy looking for a fight basically.
Yeah, that was I don't know. His story just does not make sense to me. I like him outside the Ironmonger suit. Like I like his menacingness,
Oh yeah.
but like he's not the one he should have been fighting, right?
Like the whole
Like he literally has other people do all his dirty work the
yeah,
whole movie until the end.
make it like a Justin Hammer sort of thing.
Yeah, make him like have to fight the Ironmonger suit and then beat him at his own game, you
Yeah.
know? So much better third act. And that's why it's not in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I said, love the movie. Absolutely love the portrayal of Iron Man. Iron Man for me is not one of my favorite
Yeah,
characters.
he's not the favorite. He's not our favorite.
But I'm just saying, like
He's
outside of the MCU, in
oh
the comics, I have very hard time reading Iron Man comics.
really?
Iron Man and Tony Stark's characters are not compelling to me. So going into this movie, I did not have high expectations, but boy is the MCU Iron Man so much more compelling than the comic book version of Iron Man.
um
Um,
okay.
I love I love the storytelling in this movie, and then just the nostalgia of it. I like going back and watching this movie just as much as any other. Okay, just as much as almost any other NC movie. Um, I've watched it 6 times,
I've only watched it like maybe 3 times, maybe four.
and there'll be a seventh. I guarantee you that. Yeah, and it's fabulous. But I think that wraps up. Unless you got anything else.
No, I think that wraps up the ranking of our MCU big ranking.
Yep. So next week, join us for the part 2, top 10. You know which movies are going to be in it. You just don't know the order.
Yeah, you don't know. All right, let's now move over to Star Wars, talking about the new episodes of Book of Boba Fett.
Yes, episodes of 4 and 5, I believe.
Yep, 4 and 5. What were your thoughts on episode 4, real fast?
Um, I think it was the best episode to the point. Um,
Yeah, it was the best episode of watching Boba Fett.
yes. But still nothing fantastic.
Still no Cad Bane.
Yes, no Cad Bane. Nothing really happened. I mean, we got to see the uh oh my goodness, Chewbacca guy.
Tristan? Something
Oh,
like
I was gonna say his race.
Oh, Wookie.
Wookie, the Wookie, like rip people's arms off and stuff. So that was fun.
That was pretty nice.
Um, and we got to see his story kind of finally come to where he's helping the good guys like you knew was gonna happen when you first saw him. But
Yeah.
um, and yeah, but besides that, it was kind of mediocre. Just
Yeah,
kind of
just
moved the story along, and we
and we
learned about what's her face.
Fennec Shand.
Yes, her. I won't act like I knew that. Um, and we got to see, her get pistons put in her place of her
Oh,
stomach.
oh, like how does a stomach work with
I
pistons?
don't know how that works, but it does. Star Wars magic.
It goes through the pistons. Oh.
Okay, we didn't need to. Um.
um
Anyways, what are your thoughts?
so we just got more flashbacks, which was kind of annoying.
Mm-hmm.
It was just
Remind you of another Marvel. I mean, a Marvel movie.
Marvel movie.
Shang-Chi.
Oh, yes.
Every
Yes.
15 minutes, you have to have a flashback.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like oh my goodness. Well, this one it was just flashbacks. It was just one long flashback.
Yeah, the
So
whole thing was, yeah.
and well, I don't think we're going to get any more flashbacks because I think we're all done with that because his healing cycle has finished.
Yes.
It was kind of interesting to see that. I guess it was interesting for Boba to be talking with the group,
I
the
mean, yeah, it was nice to see who all the players are, you might say.
yeah, but I don't think they're going to be doing much other than
Yeah, getting in his way.
yeah. All right, let's move on to episode 5 here
Let's.
because oh.
All right, finally a good episode of the Book of Boba Fett where the Boba Fett doesn't appear the entire time.
Yes. Would you care to explain why this episode was so good? Like why the reason Boba Fett not being in it
Sure.
made it so good?
So, what I realized in maybe the first 5 minutes of watching the episode is that The Mandalorian is so far superior to Boba Fett as a character. And I mean, yes, we have got 2 seasons of him, and so like you know, feel like you know him better. But at the same
Mhm.
time, like in the first couple of shots of seeing him, he's already shown more of an intimidating presence than Boba Fett has in any episode that he's been in.
Yeah.
And um, just like the way it's the acting, it's the way he walks, it's the way that the camera work presents him, it's the way that the action flows. He just is so much more smooth as a character. Like he intimidates, he strikes fear in the heart. He's like what's he's like so like motivated is not the right word, but like uh
Um
dedicated, like and like with his Mandalorian upbringing that makes sense, right? Like this is the way.
yeah.
And that just like shows through every ounce of his being, and the way it's acted, the way it's shot, the way the soundtrack, all of it. And Boba Fett just doesn't have that. Like he can't. He's literally trying to intimidate people every episode, and it fails miserably every single time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like yeah, like he is a much better Mandalorian in every way. He is my favorite Star Wars character, so
Yeah. So yeah, the episode was super fun. I mean, you get it just kind of threw you right back into the Mandalorian. Felt like a Mandalorian episode. He was
yeah.
just walking around, killing people, taking heads, kicking names. You know.
Taking heads, kicking names.
yes. Um, if you were a Marvel fan, you'd get the reference. Um, uh, and then goes on to uh get fight with his little black saber.
Yeah, Dark Saber, Dark Saber.
Yes, dark saber.
It was. I don't know if they actually announced, talked about it before. I'm gonna have to look it over again, but I don't know if they ever mentioned that other Mandalorian's name. Um, I forget his first name, but Vizsla,
Pa.
Pa, Pa,
Pause. Pa.
something,
There's
something.
PA something.
Yeah, something Vizsla. It was nice to see Vizsla come into the live action because I don't think we ever had a live action Vizsla, which is nice. Just want to see it more. But yeah, like even the whole time with him just building the starship was just
Yeah, that the whole him building the N1.
the N1 starfighter, which
Yeah,
was really nice to see.
was the ship's gorgeous. Like the whole uh references to like cars and like building classic cars and like all the tropes that go along with it, all the like selling car tropes that went into it were all fabulous.
Yeah. Now, I know I'm probably gonna get some hate for saying this. Just the little tiny two-legged droid unit helping Mando was so stupid. I'm sorry. I just hated that. I hate that kind of droid.
I don't know why you don't like that droid. I mean, all the droids. It's like just like any other droid, in my opinion.
True, true, true. I would say mm, just that droid is very low on my list of droids that I like.
Anything else?
Other than the fact that I am excited to see him come into more episodes of Boba Fett, it might make the show a lot better.
For sure. I think that uh seeing him next to Boba Fett is something I'm actually like looking forward to. Seeing them fight together, seeing what comes of the relationship, and hopefully we just see more Mandalorian.
And maybe give Boba some tips how to be intimidating.
Yeah.
All right, that does it for our talk of Book of Boba Fett. All right, let's move into our Star Wars and Marvel news. I probably should go first because you
I
say
have a lot.
you have a big list.
There's a lot of things that happened this last week. That's all I'm gonna say.
So, of course, you all know that, as we said in our last episode. Why'd you have to do that? um, man, you.
Anyways, what's going on in the Star Wars world? My bad.
So let's go talking into the Star Wars world.
Yep.
You all know that what's coming out because of listening to our last episode. You know of the Bad Batch and Andor coming. But let's talk about when Andor is coming. Andor is supposed to be coming the summer of 2022.
And this is a TV show.
TV show, not a
Do you
movie.
know like anything? Do we know anything about it right
Other
now?
than the fact that Andor is supposed to be happening at the time before Rogue One.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we're gonna learn why Andor is the way he is, I
Speaking of
think.
which, I have something really embarrassing to tell you.
Oh dear.
So I was putting myself through a little quiz I like to do every once in a while. I like to watch YouTube videos where they you guess the movie by the scene as quickly as possible, right? And generally, if I've watched the film, I know it immediately. Like I usually like literally a second and I'll know it, right? The scene starts playing and I'm like, what?
Oh,
I don't even like I literally like gave up. I, like saw the first couple seconds. I was like, I've never seen this movie before, right? It was from one.
oh my goodness.
And it was the ending. Dude, like he's like literally the ending was it exploding, and I was just like, yeah, that's that movie to me. So I don't remember a thing about that movie. I really need to watch it again. I literally have only seen it once, and I really need to watch it again. Give it a second chance. But yeah, it was. I just thought I really need to share that with you. I might as well do it in front of them.
Yeah, I'm annoyed that you that you had. All right. So yeah, Andor is coming summer of 2022. Um, Bad Batch, season 3 is coming 2022. I don't exactly know when. I don't think they have announced a release date. It might be coming a little later on down the road, a little after Andor. But yeah, it's gonna be Bad Batch. What do we expect?
Garbage.
You've seen only the first couple of episodes, so
Um,
um, true, it is pretty bad.
no, I don't have a problem with them.
um,
Yeah.
then we also have apparently Obi-Wan Kenobi show coming.
It's a show now.
It's a show.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
going to be the time of Obi-Wan living on Tatooine, I believe.
Like before he meets Lucas Skywalker.
Well, he met Luke Skywalker in episode
Oh,
3.
that's right. Before he starts training
Yeah, there we
Lucas
go.
Skywalker.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be and I'm from what I understand it as, there's going to be flashbacks, and we're going to see a return of Anakin
Do
Skywalker.
you know if they're going to uh de-age him or if there's like two actors playing him?
Obi-Wan. I do know it's our good old faithful.
Or like I figured he'd be playing him at the time.
Yeah,
But is like when in the flashbacks will they be de-aging him?
probably de-aging him. I'm not sure.
They better do a good job.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm terrified. Yeah. So, I just don't know what's gonna be interesting about this because I'm scared because it's a time of where Obi-Wan is just the way he is. Um, then last but not least, we have Mandalorian season 3, and for what I understand it as, we're going to be learning of how our good old faithful Mandalorian is going to be saving Mandalore from its war. I think I'm not sure. I don't remember much from the Mandalorian. I really need to watch that show again.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, you know a lot more about that war than I do. I just kind of remember what I remember from what you call it,
The show.
what that other show. But anyways,
Rebels,
no, the other one.
Clone Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? Let's save that for another
All right.
day. Let's save that for
Yeah.
another day.
Fun. I'm kind of because I thought they'd canceled all the Mandalorian stuff, so I'm kind of interested to see like if they're changing more actors and everything. All right. So is that all? You
Yep.
ready to go into MC? All right.
Let's go into your
So
giant
we'll
list.
start with the changes from last week. So last week I said that um, Secret Wars, What If Season 2, and I feel like there was something else I said was coming out this summer. But apparently they moved those back. So What If Season 2 will be coming out in 2023.
Whoa.
And Secret Wars probably late 2023.
Wow.
But we did get, I don't remember if we had this last time, but Moon Knight will be coming out on March 30th. For the other shows, She-Hulk will be coming out June, we think. We don't have a date yet, but we're probably June, especially with like it'll be like Loki, if they keep the same time slots, it'll be March and then June and then August for Miss Marvel.
Okay.
The movies coming out next year. Oh, let's go to stuff coming out in 2023 before we go to movies. So, because I want to talk more about the movies and Midnight.
We're
We'll
supposed to
go.
be talking about
So
2022.
some crazy stuff that we know that's coming. I understand. I understand. But like they finally released like a full list of like everything that's coming out. So I do want to go over some of the stuff real quick. So Marvel Zombies, I Am Groot, and Armor Wars, and Spider-Man freshman year are the animated things coming out. Freshman year, we don't know when it could come out. It could come out 2022. It could come out 2023. We don't know yet. But all the other ones will be coming out probably 2023 and 2024.
Okay.
The non-animated TV shows would be Echo, Ironheart, and I feel like there's another. Oh, Agatha House of Harkness coming out. And then we've got movies.
Wait, are those coming
Fantastic
out
Four.
2022, 23, or 2022?
There's no. I'm guessing. So I heard that in November. I remember they said that they started the production of Echo is going to be started this April, so it probably would be in 2023. Agatha House of Harkness. They said that they started the production. I think the start of the year, and then yeah, that's all that we really know about those.
Okay.
The movies we got Fantastic Four probably
Ooh.
coming out November of 2023.
Okay.
Probably. We don't have a date for sure. Quantum Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania is probably coming out July of 2023. Guardians of the Galaxy is probably coming out May like 11th or whatever. It'll be The Marvels is probably coming out February 2023. Then moving up to what's coming out this year in November, we've got Wakanda Forever. We've got we already went over Miss Marvel. Thor: Love and Thunder in July, and then Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness.
Oh.
I could talk for hours on the leaks that came out this week about it. So I'm just going to say, if there's anything you want to know that you don't want to know too much going in, but if there's anything that you want to ask me or want me to disclose to our giant audience of beloved fans, go ahead, ask away.
Um. Man, I don't even know where to start because I'm like super excited for this movie and.
Or about Moon Knight too, because there's been a lot of stuff coming out about Moon Knight too.
Well, Moon Knight, I'm like more excited for Doctor,
Multiverse, yeah.
yeah, Multiverse of Madness than Moon Knight just because I've heard more.
I mean, who isn't a huge Doctor Strange fan?
Yeah, exactly.
Not many people are bigger Doctor Strange fans than you, but
Wow.
it's true. You're a huge Doctor Strange fan.
I am a huge Doctor Strange fan. Ugh, that just came out weird. So I guess the one question is it just going to be the heroes Doctor Strange and Wanda?
I can most assuredly say no.
Really? Okay, okay.
Do you want me to give a little theory I have based on the trailer?
Let's hear.
This is just a theory. Like there's nothing backing this up,
It's
other than
zombies all along.
other than just things I picked up on in the trailer. Like there's no leaks about this. There's nothing like that. I do believe the main villain of the movie will be Scarlet Witch.
What?
Scarlet Witch.
What?
Not
Really?
having watched the trailer, I'm sure you're very, very confused why I'd say that, but I do think that is the case. I think there's just little hints in the trailer. I don't think I like by the main villain. I think like the villain for the most time in the movie. Of course, they could do something with Mephisto or some other MCU magical villain being like the main villain. They have to band together with Scarlet Witch, even though she is. But I do think since she has the dark hold, she's been shown to use dark magic. I think that she will be the villain.
Okay, okay. All right. That's an interesting theory. Yeah.
Based on the one trailer, right? That we've really two trailers, I guess we've been able to see. As more trailers come out, my theories will develop. Other things, so there's been some leaks about things that I really want to say, but I will not.
Yeah,
I
hold
will
it in. Hold
refrain.
it in.
But craziness got leaked. Is there any other question you want to ask me?
Um, do they actually go into the quantum, not the quantum realm, the multiverse?
I mean, the trailer so far has kind of been how the Spider-Man trailer was. Like, you can't really necessarily tell if they're in our universe or another universe. It's
Okay.
just they're definitely trying to keep it based on background, the things I see. I do think you see another cosmetron. Oh, why can't I say it? I can suddenly not say it. Sanctum Sanctorum. Sorry. Why can't I say that? I usually can. But I think you do.
Okay.
Um, so I guess I'd say you probably.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's all I've got.
That's all. Oh, there's
That
so many questions I have.
there is more I want to ask, but I want to like
Right.
I want to keep it like
Oh, I forgot to say Morbius. Morbius is coming out April 1st. It's gonna come out the same day as Moon Knight.
that's gonna be hard.
Well, the day after Moon Knight, I guess. That'll be fine. So Moon Knight. Anything you want to ask about Moon Knight?
Have you seen his suit?
Yes,
Does it look good?
fabulous. So
Okay.
far, like it depicts who he is in the comics without but being its own thing, if that makes
Really?
sense. Yeah. It does a very good job.
Okay. Do we have any idea of who the villain is?
We know who's playing the villain. You they don't say who the villain's gonna be, but I think I know who the villain's gonna be.
Okay. 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 Um, any sign of it being the gory Moon Knight that we know from the comics?
Um, it's gonna be dark. I don't see how they can not make it dark based on where they're going. How gory it will be on Disney Plus, I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. There's been rumors about a lot of things Disney Plus has in the works, so we'll see.
Okay.
I hope it has at least. I Moon Knight's one of those things. Like I don't think it has to be TVMA or R rated type thing, but I do think it would be a lot easier for them to portray the character with that. Like get who is his dark side, his brutal side. He's literally in the. I don't know if you know this, but in the comics, he literally would rather take a hit because he knows he can take it if he's gonna get a hit of his own. Because he's
Mm.
like, I can take the hit and hit you harder rather than spend the in as he says in the comics, I believe, something like spend the energy to block the hit.
Really? Okay.
He would rather put that energy into attacking. Like that's just a brutal way of fighting. Like he's gonna get hurt, but he can take it, and he's gonna deal lots of damage back. Um, so he has that like brawler mentality, and just like so, I do think it would benefit from being an R TVMA rated show.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I really think they will do a good job, or at least Oscar Isaacs. And so far, seems like they'll portray his multiple personalities really well. Some things I'm really looking forward to in the show
Oh, I'm excited to see that.
is adamantium being possibly
Ooh.
introduced.
Ooh.
So I don't know if you know this and other people know this, but for a time in the comics, his suit is made out of adamantium. And adamantium is closely related to Wolverine and Weapon X and mutants, and so they could be brought in some way as well. Yeah, I think that about
That
wraps it up. Unless you got some other
that
questions,
that about
I
wraps it
guess.
up.
I guess have you watched any Morbius stuff recently?
No, I haven't looked recently. I'm probably gonna look.
Is there any hints of Blade?
No,
Is there any hints of Venom?
I haven't seen any other than there is one thing they say.
Is there any hints of Spider Men that possibly were in No Way Home?
No,
Okay,
absolutely not. I'm shaking my head here,
all right,
crazy.
yeah. All right. That's all I really want to know.
All right.
Maybe before next week, make sure you check stuff because I have lots of questions about that.
Yeah, I will check,
And if you
and I'll check for you guys as well.
and I will definitely be trying to keep up with all the news. But they're literally today. I'm pretty sure I could have read like 50 articles on on Multiverse of Madness.
Oh
Like
my
there's so
goodness.
much written, so many leaks coming out. I was like, ah. All right.
All right. Um,
Do you want to say what we're doing next week?
yeah, let's well, we already said what we were doing next week, but we can go into it again. Going into next week's episode, we will finish off our ranking of Marvel movies, our top 10.
And we'll have our rankings posted on our social medias. Links will be in the description.
And hoping that Rogue Gambit doesn't get sick again, we will have our movie review for Spider-Man No Way Home coming out next week.
Alrighty, we'll see you next week.
Don't put yourselves inside a box.